The 2025 Formula One season was already electrifying, but what has just come to light from Montreal may spark an entirely new controversy. While George Russell may have clinched a picture-perfect victory for Mercedes on paper, a shocking revelation behind the scenes suggests that both he and Max Verstappen were locked in a battle of wits from the cockpit, using untelevised radio messages, strategic moves, and exploiting gray areas in the race rules to try and get each other penalized. With Verstappen dangerously close to a one-race ban, the stakes could not have been higher. And now, for the first time, we have access to previously unseen footage and team radio that reveals just how intensely these mind games were played. Russell was caught easing off behind the safety car, leaving a gap of more than 10 car lengths, while Verstappen, in visible frustration, flirted with overtaking him. Both drivers knew exactly what they were doing, and the battle for dominance was about to escalate. Red Bull's protest may have been dismissed, but the unfiltered audio evidence is compelling enough to warrant a full investigation. If you're not already subscribed, now's the perfect time, because this isn't just another race review. It's a forensic breakdown of tactics that could very well define the rest of the 2025 Formula One season. Now, let's unravel the full story of what really happened behind the safety car in Canada. A high-stakes chess match between two of F1's most brilliant minds, Max Verstappen and George Russell. On the surface, the 2025 Canadian Grand Prix appeared to be a clean, dominant win for George Russell, signaling a long-awaited comeback for Mercedes with a solid 1-2 finish, alongside the rookie sensation, Andrea Kimi Antonelli. However, beneath the calm of the safety car period during the final laps, an invisible war was being waged not on the track, but through strategy, radio messages, and technical regulations. The intense rivalry between Russell and Verstappen didn't just begin in Canada, it was ignited in Barcelona. During the Spanish Grand Prix, Verstappen and Russell made contact in a move that many, including the stewards, described as deliberate. Verstappen, reacting to an earlier overtake attempt, darted back onto the racing line at turn 5, blocking Russell in a maneuver that left no room for doubt. The stewards, without hesitation, handed Verstappen a severe penalty, a 10-second time penalty, and 3 penalty points, pushing him to 11 penalty points, just one shy of an automatic race ban. With Red Bull's home Grand Prix in Austria looming, any further mistake in Canada could see Verstappen forced to watch the race from the sidelines, and Russell was fully aware of that. After securing pole position in Montreal, Russell made a pointed comment: "We're mates, so it's all good. I've got a few more points on my license to play with." While many laughed it off, Red Bull was far from amused. In fact, they were so concerned about Verstappen's vulnerability that they approached FIA race director Rui Marcus before the race and warned, "Watch out for rivals provoking Max." What seemed like a paranoid warning turned out to be far more than that. With just a few laps left in Canada, a collision between Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri brought out the safety car, bunching up the field behind Russell and Verstappen. What happened next wasn't broadcast live, but newly released radio footage has completely changed the narrative. On lap 68, Verstappen could be heard over the radio, frustrated, saying, "The safety car is driving really slow. What is he doing?" Seconds later, Russell suddenly and aggressively braked. His engineer, Gianpiero Lambiase, responded calmly, "Understood. Thank you. I will check for any erratic driving." Moments later, Verstappen briefly passed Russell, which, according to the safety car rules, was a potential violation. Instantly, Russell radioed in, "Verstappen just overtook me under the safety car." Verstappen's engineer, Marcus Dudley, acknowledged, "Understood. We'll look." From here, things began to look less like mere coincidence and more like a calculated strategy. Both drivers were clearly trying to get the other penalized. Verstappen saw Russell brake-checking him, and Russell saw Verstappen overtaking, with both drivers weaponizing their radio messages to make sure race control was closely monitoring the situation. As the field navigated through the pit lane, a precautionary move due to debris on the main straight, Russell slowed again, this time well beyond the 10-car length limit required behind the safety car. Verstappen, still following the rules, radioed in once more. "There's more than 10 car lengths here," Lambiase responded. "We'll check that as well." At this point, Red Bull began to see a pattern. Verstappen was being baited. Russell was pushing the rules to their absolute limit, staying just within the margins of plausibility. He claimed he was simply following the Delta Times on his dash, but Red Bull believed it was a case of intentional gamesmanship. The FIA, of course, needed hard evidence to act. Then came lap 70, the final lap. Russell once again dropped back further, while Verstappen, adhering strictly to the rules, didn't attempt to pass. But Verstappen was visibly frustrated. "Way more than 10, he shouted. Lambiase responded, "Just don't fall for the gamesmanship." Red Bull filed an official protest after the race, claiming that Russell's erratic driving and unsportsmanlike behavior under the safety car were designed to provoke a rule breach from Verstappen, potentially costing him his participation in Austria. The FIA dismissed the protest, citing insufficient evidence to prove intentional misconduct. However, fans, analysts, and even some within the paddock are not convinced. Red Bull development driver Rudy Van spoke out in frustration. Russell sees Max in the mirror, warms his tires and brakes, knowing Max might pass. Then he radios it in. Then he falls 10 car lengths back. What are we even doing? Christian Horner, the political mastermind behind Red Bull, made his move in public, saying, "We anticipated gamesmanship. That's why we warned the FIA. I think Max drove a very clean race under very difficult conditions. And here's where the story gets even more intriguing. If Russell did exactly what Red Bull suspects, using minor rule infringements or borderline tactics to provoke Verstappen, was it wrong? Or was it genius? From a sporting perspective, some would argue it was smart racing. In a high-stakes sport like Formula One, where knowledge of the rulebook is as crucial as raw speed, pushing your rival toward a mistake without crossing the line yourself could be seen as clever. But from a fairness standpoint, the line becomes blurred. If Russell used Verstappen's vulnerable penalty point situation to gain an edge, even at the risk of undermining the sport's integrity, it raises serious questions about F1's disciplinary system. Should the FIA allow one driver's penalty tally to become a strategic weapon for others? And credit where credit is due, Ed. Despite Verstappen's reputation for aggressive driving, he held his nerve. Even when he had moments where he could have lashed out or overtaken prematurely, he stayed within the rules, even when it cost him. Some might even say this shows his growth as a driver. But this is far from over. If Verstappen picks up even a single penalty point in Austria, a one-race ban becomes a reality. And after what happened in Canada, you can be certain that Red Bull will be watching everything like hawk sand, so will the stewards. So, do you think Russell's actions were smart racing tactics? Or did he cross the line into dirty play? Should Verstappen still be walking the tightrope with 11 penalty points this late into the season? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this could very well define the outcome of the 2025 championship.